The morning of August 15th, 1975 began the way every summer Friday did in Broomall, Pennsylvania. The kind of suburb where parents let their kids roam and never thought twice about it. A quiet, tree-lined community just outside Philadelphia, where families had specifically come to escape the city, to give their children room to breathe and be kids. Nothing bad happened in Broomall. That was the unspoken understanding that every family on every block had built their lives around. Then came that Friday morning, and nothing was ever the same again. If you're new here, welcome to Unsolved Chapters. Hit subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss a case. And if this story moves you, drop a like. It helps more people find the cases that deserve to be heard. Now let's get into it. 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington was the third of 4 daughters born to Harold and Anna Harrington. Harold was the pastor of the Reformed Presbyterian Church in Marple Township, a steady, principled man whose entire life was organized around faith, commitment, and showing up for the things that mattered. Anna held the household together with the same quiet dedication. Together they had built a life that was, by every account from every neighbor and every member of their church community, simply good. Not complicated, not loud, just genuinely, entirely good. Gretchen fit that life perfectly. If you met her, you were instantly her friend. That is not a eulogy cliché. That is what the people who actually knew her said, decades later, when they tried to explain what made her different. She exuded kindness to everyone around her. She had no meanness in her anywhere. And even at 8 years old, she left a mark on people that didn't fade. On that particular Friday, Gretchen was walking to the last day of Vacation Bible School. The program was held on the grounds of 2 nearby churches, the Reformed Presbyterian Church, where her father preached, and Trinity Chapel Christian Reformed Church, less than a quarter mile from their home. She had walked the route every morning that week. It was familiar. It was short. It was safe. Her sisters would normally have walked with her. But that morning, they stayed home, because that morning, Anna Harrington was coming home from the hospital with a new baby. The family was about to grow. There was every reason to stay. Gretchen could have stayed too. No one would have blamed her. But Harold believed in finishing what you started. He told his 8-year-old daughter to go, to honor her commitment, to complete the week. She picked up her Bible, and she went. Harold stood at the edge of their property and watched her walk up the road. She moved the way she always did, with quiet purpose, getting smaller as the distance grew. When she looked like exactly what she was, a little girl on a familiar walk, he went back inside to wait for his wife and new baby. He had no reason to think anything was wrong. There was nothing in that moment to suggest that the last time he would ever see his daughter alive was already behind him. At Trinity Chapel Christian Reformed Church, the pastor was a man named David Zanstra. He was a trusted figure in the community. He was known to the Harrington family personally. He was, in fact, the father of one of Gretchen's close friends. He was exactly the kind of person an 8-year-old girl raised in that faith community would recognize without hesitation, would smile at, would have no reason to fear. When Zanstra pulled up alongside her in his green station wagon on Lawrence Road that morning, she got in. Of course she did. She knew him. She trusted him. That trust was the weapon he used against her. He drove her to a wooded area. He asked her to remove her clothing. When she refused, he struck her in the head with his fist. He believed she was dead. He attempted to cover her body and left. Then he drove back to the church and tried to act like nothing had happened. Around 11 a.m., Gretchen's parents realized she had never arrived at Bible school. Her father called the church immediately. No one had seen her. She had never shown up. Harold searched the route himself, Lawrence Road, the surrounding streets, every place she might have gone. He found nothing. At 11:23 that morning, David Zanstra, the man who had just killed her, called the Marple Township Police Department to report Gretchen missing. He described her to the dispatcher in precise detail. An 8-year-old girl, blonde hair and pigtails, around 3.5 feet tall, 50 pounds, wearing dark blue shorts with a zipper and snap closure, pockets on each side, no visible buttons. A white top. He described a child he had just murdered. Then he returned to helping the Harrington family coordinate the search. The search that followed was massive. More than 400 volunteers flooded into Broomall. Pennsylvania State Police helicopters swept overhead. K-9 bloodhound units were deployed. Volunteer firefighters waded through Darby Creek. Search teams pushed through miles of dense underbrush across the surrounding terrain. They covered everything and found nothing. The bloodhounds, however, told the real story. They picked up Gretchen's scent on Lawrence Road and followed it up the hill toward the church, and then they stopped. Not gradually. They stopped at a specific point on the asphalt, with no driveway nearby, no path into the woods, no reason for a child to deviate from her route. The scent ended there. She had left the ground entirely. She had gotten into a vehicle. The dogs had told investigators exactly what had happened. Whatever direction that vehicle had gone, it was not somewhere 400 people searching on foot were ever going to find her. On October 14, 1975, 8 weeks after she disappeared, a jogger found skeletal remains in Ridley Creek State Park, more than 7 miles from the Harrington home. The autopsy identified the remains as Gretchen's. The cause of death was cranial cerebral injury. She had suffered 2 or more blunt impacts to her skull, a depressed skull fracture. She was found wearing her blue denim shorts, a white and blue shirt, green stockings, and her blue canvas sneakers. She was 8 years old. David Zandstra was interviewed during the original 1975 investigation. He denied having seen Gretchen on the day she disappeared. Investigators noted inconsistencies in his account of his own whereabouts, but he was not arrested. He was not charged. And in the months and years that followed, Zandstra continued to live his life and continued to work as a pastor as the Harrington family lived inside the permanent, unrelenting absence of their daughter and sister. The case went cold, not officially closed. Missing children cases rarely close, but cold. The active investigation wound down. The file stayed open. The answers did not come. For decades, Harold Harrington spoke about Gretchen publicly whenever he could. From his pulpit, to journalists, to investigators. He never stopped asking that the case be revisited. He died in 2021 at the age of 94, 2 years before an arrest was made. He did not live to hear the answer come back. If you are still watching, drop a comment right now with the words, "I am still here." Because what comes next is the part that took nearly half a century to finally come to light. The break in the case did not come from a DNA database or a cold case algorithm. It came from a person. In January 2023, a woman came forward, someone who had been a childhood friend of Zandstra's daughters, who had slept over at the Zandstra home many times as a girl. She told investigators that when she was 10 years old, she had woken during a sleepover to find Zandstra groping her. She told his daughter what had happened. His daughter told her it happened sometimes, that she sometimes heard her own sister crying in the night. This woman also showed investigators something she had kept for nearly 5 decades, a diary. And in it, a 1975 entry in which she had written that a friend of hers had been nearly kidnapped twice, and that she believed the man responsible was Zandstra, Mr. Z. She had written it down as a child and carried it for 48 years. In July 2023, investigators traveled to Marietta, Georgia, where Zandstra, now 83 and still working as a pastor, was living with his wife. They interviewed him at Cobb County Police Headquarters. At first, he denied knowing what had happened to Gretchen Harrington. Then he confessed. He admitted he had been driving his green station wagon that day. He admitted he had offered her a ride. He admitted what happened in the wooded area. He admitted everything. The trooper who conducted the interview later described what it felt like in that room. Zandstra seemed relieved, like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. 48 years of carrying what he had done to an 8-year-old girl who trusted him. And when it finally came out, he was relieved. Delaware County District Attorney Jack Stolsteimer announced the charges publicly. David Zandstra is a monster, he said. He is every parent's worst nightmare. He killed this poor girl, a girl he knew, a girl who trusted him, and then he acted as if he was their family friend. Not only during her burial and the period after that, but for years. Zandstra was charged with criminal homicide, first, second, and third-degree murder, kidnapping of a minor, and possession of an instrument of crime. He was extradited from Georgia to Pennsylvania to face those charges. Gretchen's family released a statement. If you met Gretchen, you were instantly her friend. She exuded kindness to all and was sweet and gentle. Even now, when people share their memories of her, the first thing they talk about is how amazing she was and still is. At just 8 years old, she had a lifelong impact on those around her. The abduction and murder of Gretchen has forever altered our family, and we miss her every single day. Marple Township Police Chief Brandon Grafe, who had never let go of the case files, put it plainly at the press conference. Pre-August 1975, it was any town, USA, he said. Post that day, it changed everything. For the kids, for the parents, for the families, for everybody. Because nobody could do anything anymore in the innocence that they used to do it before this happened. That is what this case represents, beyond one family, in one town, in one summer. It is a story about how trust becomes a weapon, about how a man can stand at the center of a faith community, be present at a child's burial, help coordinate the search for her body, and carry the secret of what he did for nearly half a century. About how the systems around him, however well-intentioned, did not stop him and did not catch him. And it is a story about a woman who kept a diary, who wrote, I think it was Mr. Z, when she was a child, and who finally walked into a police station in 2023 and handed over what she had always known. She is the reason the answer came back. She is the reason this story has an ending. Gretchen Eleanor Harrington, born June 13, 1967, Broomall, Pennsylvania. She walked less than a quarter mile to the last day of Bible school on a Friday morning in August, and she deserved to reach it. She deserved her certificate. She deserved her whole life ahead of her. If you made it to the end of this story, leave a comment below with the words, Justice for Gretchen, and share this video with one person who needs to hear it. Every share puts this story in front of someone who might be the next person to care, the next person to say her name out loud in a place where it still matters. Subscribe to Unsolved Chapters if you haven't already. Hit the like button and turn on the notification bell. There are more names that need to be said, and more stories that refuse to stay cold. This has been Unsolved Chapters. Every case deserves a chapter. Every victim deserves a voice.